Kate Bapela, and wish to acknowledge among us our guests from CAR, Dr. Murumba, with the delegation of the observers who are our friends and visiting us. You are most welcome. I hope you already are enjoying yourself being here. And wish also to greet all the members of the Electoral Commission staff who are present among us, and has already introduced my fellow commissioners that are here with me. This is an opportunity for us to now to give a feedback to the fellow South Africans. And in the last 2 days that we have had a very successful special voting that has been conducted. We are pleased that we've completed the special voting successfully, and as matters stand now, we are very confident that all systems are good for the election day tomorrow. The National Results Center, as matters stand, all voting stations have closed, and this marked the end of the 2-day special voting in the local government elections of 2021. And the Commission extends its heartfelt gratitude to all South Africans who registered for and cast the special vote in their large numbers in our 21,974 voting stations throughout the country. And the people that had been able also to be available for the special visits at their homes in the past 2 days. And as at 1600 hours, 502,837 voters out of the 602,780 voters had been approved to vote as special voters, and of those we now know that 83% were able to cast their votes. Similarly, by the conclusion of the day, we believe we would have visited all the voters who had been approved for their home visit. So on that, we want to be very much pleased. We want to indicate how pleased we are as the Commission that such a large number of special voters, for the first time, due to the COVID environment, we've been able to achieve this particular task. And while we as the Commission are pleased with the turnout over these past 2 days, the Commission wishes to point out that voters who were unable to cast a special vote for whatever reason may still vote at their voting stations tomorrow. So if you didn't manage, you are still welcome to actually go to the polling station. And the 2 days of special votes have also offered us as a Commission insights that we now believe will enable us to refine our operations to positively impact over the voter experience that we expect of South Africans who would be coming out in their large numbers to cast their votes. Therefore, we urge the 26.2 million compatriots who are eligible to come out and cast their votes in their respective voting stations. The network of 23,148 voting stations will be open for voting as of 0700 hours, and we then close at 2100 hours. It is important to emphasize that the eligible voters who will be at the voting station at 2100 hours in the queues will not be turned away. The Commission wishes to remind all the eligible voters that voters must vote where they are registered. In local government elections, you may vote at the voting station where you are registered. Further, the voters must be in possession of a valid South African ID document, and the Home Affairs offices are open tomorrow to allow for the voters to collect their IDs as well as to apply for the temporary voting certificates. Each voter in a metropolitan municipality will receive 2 ballot papers, one for the award candidate and one for the political party. And in addition, voters in local municipalities will receive a 3rd ballot paper for the district council. And each ballot paper must be stamped on the reverse side to indicate the authenticity of the ballot during the counting process. We also just remind the voters to actually verify if the ballots that have been passed to them has actually been stamped at the back. If it is not, kindly indicate to the officers at the station that your ballot paper, for whatever reason, is not in compliance. And it is also to be noted by all of us that it is prohibited for a voter to take a photograph of their marked ballot paper. And this arrangement is necessary to protect the secrecy of the choice of the voters. Further, the Commission reassures the South Africans and the voters that voting stations will be safe because of the following protocols that should and we expect that they would be in place. Among them is that the Commission will ensure compliance with COVID-19 protocols within the boundaries of the voting stations. And the electoral staff will be provided with the necessary personal protective equipment to minimize the risk of contagion or spreading of the virus. And the PPE will include, among others, the following: face masks, disposable sanitizer wipes, hand sanitizing liquids, disposable litter bins with lids. The following acceptable methods to prevent the spread of COVID-19 will be enforced. Among them is maintaining social distancing by observing distance of at least 1.5 meters away from each other or the next person. And the sanitizing frequently touch surfaces will also take place and is encouraged. And if it is not being conducted for you, you are welcome to also request the officers that will be in our voting stations to adhere to that, and we'll appreciate that you are free to express that. But also there's another important issue which we have seen, you know, South Africans with their wonderful humor on the issue of the pens, that the pens will be provided and disinfected after each use. However, voters are encouraged, should they wish, to do so because of COVID, then they should bring their own pens. The Commission will provide and has provisioned for every voter to actually have a pen. However, we are encouraging, should you wish, that you bring your own pen, that we'll welcome that. And other considerations is that the South African Weather Services advises that we should expect a bad weather in some parts of our country. And the necessary steps have been taken to manage the potential negative effect of the inclement weather on the voting and counting processes. But in cases where tents are blown away or there's a disruptions with the voting stations, the Commission wishes to assure that plans and contingency plans have been put in place to have those stations to be re-erected or to speedily ensure that we are able to proceed besides those particular possible disruptions. Preparations for this election have been undertaken with a truncated election timetable. As we all know, the prescribed timetable is 86 days. But these elections, we had to prepare in 42 days. I think this is an amazing achievement by all the personnel of the IEC to live up to the to live up to the expectations that we should, come rain or sunshine, we should be able to pull this off. And so, as we know, additionally, that the elections were proclaimed on the 20th of September 2021 by the minister responsible for cooperative governance and traditional affairs. And this was just a day following the voter registration weekend. In the circumstances, there were voters whose registration details could not be captured or updated before the voters' roll was certified for use in this election. And we would like to be on record that as the Commission, we acknowledge that there are those voters whose number is approximately 140,000 that we could not upload their details. But in order to ensure that they are not disenfranchised but would participate, these voters will be permitted to vote as though their details were on the voters' roll segment of the voting district in which they present themselves. And this arrangement is authorized in terms of Section 7(2) Municipal Election Act, which allows for a voter to be allowed to vote on presenting proof that they had applied for registration before the proclamation of an election. And competent proof for facilitating the participation of these voters is the pre-approved MEC 7 lists compiled by the Electoral Commission. And the Commission is confident that all preparations are in place for us to achieve free, fair, and in the context of the COVID, safe elections in our 2021 municipal elections. And the Commission is further satisfied that it has done everything in its powers to prepare for these elections, which are highly contested given the number of candidates and contesting parties. A key aspect of our preparations included engaging with stakeholders, and this includes political parties and candidates, the media, security and government structures and agencies, the civil society organization, community-based organizations, the traditional authorities, and the voters of South Africa. It is time now for all of us to work together to prepare that these elections are free and fair and safe, and that the outcome, as it should be, will reflect the will of the South African electorate. Therefore, our clarion call to all compatriots, South Africans, is that let's go out and vindicate our democratic right to vote. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Mr. Glenn Mashinini. I'm going to open the floor for media to ask questions of clarification. Oh, I can already see hands. I've got a hand this side, that side, and the third one. If I may take those first sets of questions so that I may allow the panel from the Electoral Commission to respond to those questions. Introduce yourself, your media house, and then pose the question.
Good evening. My name is Mahlatsi Mahlase. I'm with Eyewitness News. I'm going to ask about something that also happened to me, but I see several people experienced it. My voting station was closed at 1 o'clock, and when I phoned the PO, she told me that she had phoned me and not reached me, so there's nothing that she can do. By the time other people intervened, it was too late. I had to come here. And I'm seeing that there's several people who could not vote, and I'm assuming people apply for a special vote for a reason. First question, what happens to those people that were clearly disenfranchised because presiding officers decided to close the polling station before 5? Number two, is this because they are not properly trained, as somebody suggested, and they are not aware of the law? Or is this something that was widely communicated? Because somebody senior to her said that they tell them to call the voters, and they probably just took the decision because I was the only person who hadn't come to vote.
Thank you. There was a hand in the middle.
Okay, my name is Njanji Chauke from the SABC News Channel. I just wanted to check with regards to voters not being allowed to take a photograph of their marked ballot or of their vote. How are you going to police that? Because obviously people go into the polling stations with their cell phones. How are you going to police that? And then what is the motivation behind that? What's wrong with a person taking a picture of their marked ballot, of their vote? And then we just want an update with regards to the security situation, because obviously that will determine if this was indeed a free and fair election or not. Yesterday already we have seen some flashpoints in KwaZulu-Natal where councillors were attacked, driven away. There are 1 or 2 polling stations where IEC officials were refused access, and as a result, voting didn't take place. What is the latest update, and how are you engaging the security forces going forward? Yesterday you did tell us that you are engaging them. Please give us an update with regards to that. Thanks.
All right.
All right, so they're going to continue with that question and answer session, and we'll take you back live into that room. The good news that 83% of those that had applied and were granted permission to cast their ballots have turned out to actually vote. You heard then some of the questions already, some challenges in terms of people not being able to vote under the special voting dispensation. We'll continue with the session in a bit.
That there won't be any interruptions.
Okay. I saw two last questions at the far end of the room. Then I'm going to pause and allow leadership of the IEC to respond to those questions. Mbeje and then Sophie, please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just want to find out, clearly we have challenges of power in South Africa, much as the ESCOM has confirmed that there won't be a load shedding. But it looks like in terms of maintenance of the infrastructure that is supposed to provide electricity in the country, it is a problem as witnessed yesterday. Do you have any plans to ensure that you are able to intervene and timeously?
The last one. Thanks.
Yes, good evening. Mzwande Lembech from the SABC. I wonder if you are aware or if there is any truth to reports that a presiding officer in Umbumbulu Ward 93 was caught stuffing marked ballots into the ballot box, and of course another one apparently did the same in Mpumalanga. So have those reports reached you? If they have, what have you done about it? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me pause. I'm going to allow the IEC leadership, where they're sitting, their microphones, if they may please respond from that point and deal with this batch of questions. CEO, if you may lead the discussion.
Very difficult questions. I thought you'll be a little more generous today than was the case on previous days. But be that as it may, the presiding officers could only close voting stations if all applicants had come and cast their votes. So indeed, it is an aberration if the station was closed before everybody was serviced. It ought not to have been like that, and we regret, of course, that inconvenience. Now, what happens is that the people affected will have an opportunity to go to the voting stations tomorrow. The photograph of the ballot. I think the issue is not so much policing people, but rather persuading people to desist from taking the photograph of the marked ballot. Why? This is to protect the secrecy of their votes. Because that possibility of taking a marked ballot can be used quite nefariously. There have been instances in the past where employers, especially for domestic workers, would say, go to the station, mark your ballot in a particular way, come back with proof that you voted in a particular way. So it's about protecting the secrecy
yet at the same time protecting those vulnerable groups in society who may, at the behest of their bosses and employers, may be subject to abuse of that type. So it is intended for that. What have we done about the situation in areas where there's been disruptions? We have commenced with processes of replacing that staff, because staff comes from those communities. They've been intimidated, they're afraid that their houses may be burnt and so on. So the first thing is to replace that staff and then beef up the levels of security. Can we guarantee that there won't be disruptions tomorrow? No. What we can guarantee is our commitment to ensure that all stations open and that everybody is availed an opportunity to cast their ballot. That's our guarantee and commitment. Power. I think the observation is correct that maintenance is uneven across the country. However, what we ensured leading up to the period is to do preventative maintenance as part of our preparation of assuming occupation of the whole. Now, in the circumstances, a circuit breaker on the distribution box burned, and it affected the distribution of supply. We do have generators on site, but those generators distribute via the distribution box. So we do have the City of Tshwane Electricity Department on site. We do have electricians from our service providers, and we do have ESCOM on site, so that we are able to react a lot quicker than was the case yesterday. We've not received reports of marked ballots being stuffed and so on. If indeed it is so that a person was caught, would want that person arrested and prosecuted, because it amounts to treason to subvert the will of the voter in the manner that person was doing. So we are one mind, and that person, if indeed that has transpired, must be arrested, and they must face the full might of the law. We cannot allow anyone to subvert the will of the South African electorate. Thank you.
CEO, let me allow Dr. Masuku to deal with the issue of training of electoral staff.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kate. I think Mahlatsi asked if the aberration that she encountered was as a result of people not being properly trained. I'd like to, first of all, do what the CEO did and express the Commission's apology to those people that were denied an opportunity to cast a special ballot. But to say that I don't think it is attributable to inadequate training, but rather people do behave rather strangely under pressure. That's really what I have to offer. I know it's not a satisfying answer, but it is simply the human factor as opposed to inadequate training. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Masuku. Looks like we have covered all the questions. Bonolo, slowly just get us your additional questions from online. Thank you.
We have 2 questions from our online portal. The first one comes from Ahmed Mohammed, and he'd like to know, is any color of pen okay for voting day? And then the following question is from Karine Duplessis of Eyewitness News, and her question reads as follows. How many people applied for home visits to cast special votes in total, and how many of these applications were rejected in total?
Thank you so much. Those are the questions. If there are no other, I don't see any other additional hands. After Bonolo's questions, we'll be calling a rep. CEO, deal with those questions for me as we wrap up this evening's press briefing.
There is no specified color of pen. It has to be a permanent ink of any color to mark the ballot. How many people applied? I don't have that figure with me now. However, those that were approved for special votes, it's 507,000. I don't have the figure.
Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, thank you very much for joining us for this evening's press briefing. As we wrap up and close special voting, tomorrow is a big day. 7 o'clock, voting stations open. 9 p.m. on the dot, we close voting stations for 2021 municipal elections. On that note, IEC leadership, thank you very much. And CEO has a CEO?
No, I just wanted to say to journalists, you forget to wish us well for tomorrow.
Sophie, can where Sophie? Oh, Sophie's gone. I'm Zandile Marazama, just try and wish us well for tomorrow. You'll do it online, innit? Yeah, we'll take it online. CEO will take it virtually. Yeah, thank you very much, commissioners and CEO. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.